Alright, this is going to be about turning logs into lumber, and this is a method that I use to turn a 4-foot log into a board. And I've done cedar, oak, and more cedar. Right now I'm in the process of getting this milled down. These logs are, this one here is about 13, 14 inches across from here to maybe about 12 inches. This one here I've already rounded it off. It was a little bit bigger than this one, and I've got it slabbed out to where the pieces are scrap right over here. Again, these logs are 4 feet, and I basically was working on this one here last night and put my blade into a little bit of a twist, and I snapped the blade off. So okay, once you take those logs and you get them loaded up on this mill, you can turn those logs into usable lumber. And this is a bunch of lumber that I've turned into it. It all measures about 1 inch wide. A few pieces are a little bit thicker just because they're the remnant, and I just went ahead and left them a little bit thicker. They might be 1.25 inches. And but you consistently can saw 1 inch, 2 inch, or whatever size you're wanting, and very consistently with this setup. Now, this is a Grizzly 17-inch 2-horse bandsaw. It has been basically big enough to handle whatever it is I'm doing here. And I've resawed some walnut that were about the same size of logs. They were about 12.5 inches. I've resawed capacity about right here to the table, about 12 inches, 11.75 inches, 12 inches. And I just now put on a brand new blade on the bandsaw, because I did snap the other one because I was trying to cut it longer than my saw would go. Now, what I have here is 2 tables, and they swing together to the center of this, and they bolt up to these boards that I've put on the bandsaw. Now, the bandsaw is all factory. I didn't modify it in any way. I basically put a piece of 90-degree galvanized angle iron with holes in it, and you can see it running up down through there. And I bolted it through the fence brackets right here, and then I took a hinge which allows it to have some movement, and then I bolted the hinges to that, and then bolted the hinges to the board. And then I use a dowel rod, a dowel bolt here and here and here, and this allows me to bolt securely to this saw. This is all red oak. This part right here is all red oak, so it's very strong and it works good. The reason I did it this way is because I wanted to be able to keep the serviceability of the fence if I needed to, and this part is still open so that I can use the handle right here and keep the fence still in use. So if I need to, cut some smaller boards, I can do that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to roll these into position, take these bolts right here, and all they are just a 2.5 inch bolt and 3/8 with 2 flat washers and a wing nut. And I'm going to bolt this table through all these red holes. That's where this bolts up to there. And then along this right here, I've got a couple of long boards that go across the front. So let me go ahead and get that done, and then we'll pick you up. I do need to take out this board right here so that I can fit it around the saw blade. So let me go ahead and grab that bit. And all this does is it just keeps that curve the same on both sides. And probably need to replace this with some piece of hardwood at some point or another, because this will eventually give out. But for right now, it's doing its thing. And as you can see, the curve of the 2 boards comes and goes apart. Even though this is some heavy duty plywood, it still has a tendency to go and move on us. So we'll go ahead and slide it back in there, put it around the curve of the blade, and put this piece back on there, right there. Okay, now it's on top of the rollers. This is a stop right here for the sled to stop here, so that's at 0 position. Of course, this all slides back and forth. Just put that right there for right now. We're going to put the sides on it. and put this piece on it here. Okay. These bolts are for the sides, and we will put this guy right here on there. I did put 2 pencil marks here and here to help the alignment of this, so that it goes back together right. I'll tell you what, it's nice to have these machine threaded. Screws. They are just so handy to not have to deal with stuff moving around. Now, all that's doing is keeping this kerf from going in and out. That's all that part does. That's your pulley to your winch. And we'll go on here just a little bit. Okay, we've got that in. Let's put the side rails on. These are the 2 side rails, and they are about 8 feet long. The total table measurement is a little over 10 feet long. We'll go ahead and just get the tape measure out, and I'll give you the spec on that. The total width of the table is 28 inches long. And the total length of the table is 10 foot 1 inch. Basically is how big this is. And it's made out of 1x4s, 1/4 inch piece of like a floor luan, which is about 1/4 inch thick. Then on top of that is a 1/2 inch piece, and they have been bored with Forstner holes to hold these bearings, and they're in there. They have a flange on the back side, and that's what keeps them spaced out. I just drilled them all Forstner. Originally I had it for the miter gauge guide to go down through here, but that wasn't enough to support the wood. So I took my other sled that went to right here to here and pulled it off, and I've got the full length sled on here. As you can see, that rolls real easy because it's running over all the bearings right there. And let's go ahead and put the side rails on. There are the side rails. There's a front and a back. That one on the back is cut out. All right, I will say that the impact driver with this drill makes adding these bolts in here a breeze, because as long as you get close to it, it goes on there really fast. And all this is just a bolt, approximate location. This all fits up flush, and it's just going through that hole, putting a flat washer on the back side of it, and the wing nut on the other side of it. And as long as they're flush, we're good to go. And there's a little bit ornery sometimes to get in there, and that just makes it go together so much faster and easier. And the bolts are a little bit long, so that I don't have to worry about them being exact. And goes together pretty good. I was using screws for this assembly. First 2 or 3 times I put it together as I was getting it right. Again, just getting it to go through all that. It just goes in there so much easier with the bolt going through there. And this is a red oak plywood. And all I'm doing is just getting them finger tight. Now, a little bit about this fence right here. Of course, I've got it bolted both sides of the table, so it's stiffening the table up. It's lining them up. It also has this keeper for the fence. And as you can see, the fence rolls underneath this, which has got paste wax, and against the side, which has paste wax. And the same thing will be on this side over here. When I put this over here, it will lap over the top of this, and it'll keep the table from moving. And right now, I put it on there with the table on there so that I know that it'll fit. And then I go with that. Now, what I did is I figured after a while it was probably wear out. And I put a spacer, and I made this to where this part comes off. This part one screw and this spacer here. So if I needed some room, or anyway, I didn't make it bone tight. I put like built a 1/4 inch spacer so I could take this out and replace it for wear and tear, and also to shim out something. So it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to do it on both sides, but I just did it on one side. So give me a 1/4 inch worth of play that I would move with if it was. But right now I actually have it as a perfect fit. it just goes through there, and as you can see, that lines up on the other side of the sled. So let's go ahead and I put red marks on here and red marks around here so that I don't lose track of which bolts go where. That lines up and that goes flush right here on the bottom, so I left that, and then the bolts going in there, and you know, to find the right hole is basically really easy. You just as long as it's flush, like right now it doesn't fit back in there very good. However, it just put the drill on there and it just lines up perfectly. And then hold your wing nut on the back side. All the hardwood log like walnut, that thing can weigh 200 pounds or better. These hydraulic tables will lift that up, they're no problem. And even them old cedar logs out there in the front that I just showed you, that makes for a much nicer. I'm just going to go ahead and try and tighten them up a little bit. And just the wing nuts. And we're good to go. Now, all I'm doing with these again is just supporting the weight of the logs when I get there heavy. And I just basically, this is my angle for that. And there we go. All right. So, what we have now is we have the sled. It's being kept in place by this joint right here on both sides. And I haven't put any wax on it yet. And I'll wax the slot right here and here. Put some wax in it, which makes it pretty nice. It basically will go down through here relatively easy, and then goes back. Now, next thing I need to do is add I've got the stop down there for that. The stop stops here at that point and stops here at this point. And the saw blade is supposed to stop about right here. I had to cheat and go a little bit farther, which I figured this would be a replaceable item at some point or another. Now I'm ready to put the winch on it. This is a weight. All that is a concrete, half concrete block, square block, and a piece of concrete. And the two of them work together to pull this back. Just has to have enough pressure to pull the winch line back out and return the log back to zero or start. And this is just a pin. I like these pulleys that have the sheaths in them like this. And if this needs to be taken off of there, we can do it that way too. And put that back in. And the sheaths. And the pulleys are cool devices. They make our work so much easier. And you can build them into it. That's pretty cool stuff. Alright. So, all that is just a quick connect to disconnect. And just return path, and all that does is this lifts this up, the winch pulls it, lifts that up, and then this pulls the sled back. And there's your stop. So that's to that point. Now let's go hook up the other side of it. This is the winch. I have it marked here. And the funny thing about some of this stuff is, about the time you think you won't need to change it, you do. So, I've left a couple of these items fairly flexible. And having taken this off a time or two, I know how it pretty well goes. So, we'll take that up to that point. Put that here, and then put these other two in position. And that's with the two washers on it. Washer here. And washer there. That's it. You know, this one, all it is really doing is pulling the log through the saw blade and the weight of the log at a predetermined speed. which keeps it real uniform, and it works really well. And here is our stop right here. And when I get past my 4 foot, I'm in trouble. And it's then time to pull this little stop out, but you know, it's flexible enough that I can do it that way. Most of the time I'm not going to do that, but just in case, that's a stop for that, to hit that. And the reason I took that off of there was because it needed to be taken off that way. Okay, now this guy here hits this pulley here, so, and then comes around like that, this side. So that's back in alignment. And then this guy right here, let's go ahead and give ourselves a little slack. Now, put all this over here because that's where all my controls are. So I'll just put it over there. And there's my charger. And all of this is just a nut. Bolt and a nut. And I'll just leave them right there. And then this guy right here plugs in here. Okay, now this guy right here is a 200 amp start, and I've learned I can put it on 40 amp, 12 volt, and it worked just real well. I'll put my timer on 20-30 minutes. I can put it on the whole time, but just in case, I'll leave it. I could put it over here on 40 amp 6 volt, and it slows it down by half. So I put on leave it on the 12 volt, crank it up, and then give myself some slack. And I'll be good. Ouch. I just love this wire rope. It's got me a couple times. But hey. Alright. And if I wanted to, I could put a bolt through that to hold that, but so far it hasn't had any issues. And all this is doing again is pulling the sled with the board on it, and it rolls it back and forth. We'll go ahead and fire it up and give it a test run here. So basically, we go in. And there it is, pulling it. And this guy's coming up. Basically right there, and here's my 4 foot log stop, so at least when I clear that to here, then I'm right at 4 feet. And then to return, I just go out and the weight pulls it back, and the sled is running against both sides. The next thing I'll do is throw a little wax on it, and it'll make it run a little bit smoother. And if the bearings get a little dust in them, I vacuum them out and basically get them ready with some WD-40, and away they go. So the sled is basically running up and down through there. And there's your stop. Let me go ahead and pull the kicker out of there. There we go. I had that on there while I was configuring. About ready to go back to 0, and it pretty well stops with the bucket on the ground. You know, there's a little tension on it, but it's not really too much. And then away we go. And then again, ready to go and cut a board. So that's that. I've got the shop, this collection turns on right here. And there's the shop system that comes in off of this. It does a real good job of taking it out and putting it in the dust steppity back there. Virtually no, I can be sawing in here, and there's virtually no sawdust in this room. I mean, it does a good job. I get a little bit right here, but not really too bad. And then we're ready to go. And it's about the fence. Basically, the fence works pretty good. I'm using the T-tracks, and my little screws sometimes they get to where they're hanging up on me a little bit, and I have to kind of wiggle and jiggle. But you know, it is what it is. And get her down there. And you know, I may need to just get a screwdriver and screw them down a little bit flatter. But I've got my index marks here, so when I start rounding the log, I'm back in this area. For like a 12-inch log, I can go up, of course, some more, but 12-inch log, and go up to about right here, and I can do pretty well with that. And then as I get in there, I start getting to that point where I'm wanting boards. Here's my 1-inch indexes. So once I get my fourth side squared, I lock it down right there, and I run my cut, and then after I'm done, I bring it back and I just move this in. I go up to the next 1-inch square right there, and then lock it down, and then run it again. So once you get your boards cut, it's just a matter of sliding it over. You don't have to change anything on any of that. Another thing is, whenever I'm roughing it in and I'm a long ways from the blade, and I'm doing my 3 cuts, I just use a regular 2-inch screw to lock it in and still. But when I get close and I'm within an inch or 2 of this blade, I'll use brass. And brass is soft enough where it cuts it ain't gonna do a lot of damage. It'll just cut right through it. So you can buy them brass ones for cheap. I mean, they're not much more expensive than these in a little bitty packet, and they're worth the $2 that it costs for 4 of them brass screws. And anyway, that's some tips. So I'm ready to load up the big log on there and to do some resawing. And probably the only thing I need to do is put a little paste wax in here and get this to where it's pretty smooth and go that way. Now, to push this by hand, I've got another video that you may be able to find on YouTube where I was sitting back here with a 2x4, and I was pushing the log through. Folks, after you've done that 4 or 5 times, that's a lot of work. That winch over there is a major saver. Now, I run an Alaskan mill in Alaska, bandsaw mill, big one, and where I push the carriage, that wasn't all that much work. I mean, yeah, you're making the trips, but you're using your legs, and they're rolling on bearings. Whereas this one, pushing it through that blade, it was a pretty good chore to get it through there. So all I can tell you is that winch down there is a nice addition to it. And these little bearings, I don't know how many of them are on here. There's I've got them spaced up 12 inches apart here, and they're like 10 inches apart here. So on your spacing, and then they look like a diamond, kind of like a dice down through there. This last row, I'm not even getting to them, so you can take 4 off of that side and 4 off of this side, and be away. So if you're wanting to build one like that, don't waste your time on drilling those. And I would put one side solid piece of plywood on there. I wouldn't put the miter slot back in there. This is the old sled that I had, and it still has the miter slot in there. And again, once you put that big log on here and it's hanging over, or you get down to, you know, it's over here and you're cutting, when it comes some of it off of there and it's all over here, your sled was tilting and the blade was, you weren't getting square cuts. This way this is, I get a square cut every time. I mean, you know, these boards are beautiful. I mean, they're parallel, and the only way they wouldn't be parallel if I messed up on my, you know, on these little lines right here on the side here. But you know, within not very much difference tolerance, they're pretty close. So, and I've run on this table as this is 12, 14 logs, somewhere in there, 16 logs maybe, cedars, and the walnut will work just pretty good as well. And but as long as you keep your tolerances and keep this up where it doesn't go up and down, it stays pretty true. Now that I have it bolted with all the bolts around, I don't think it's going to move much. Before I was dealing with a little bit of probably movement because of the screws, and I had these right in here where they were just clamped, and now they're all bolted with here and bolts in here. So, and that didn't take me very long to do that. So with that power deal, and there's your dust collection, works real well. So there you have it, ready to roll. And there we go. You don't want to get the dim in a bind because they'll eat that yellow thing up against your bandsaw. That orange thing will get up against your bandsaw blade or the wheel. So, about 11 and a quarter inches it is. That's on top of that. You lose about an inch, or well, 3/4 of an inch off the table, maybe 1/8 of an inch from here, which this is on the table. But you're going to lose a little bit of your resaw compatibility. So 11 inches by your resaw sled, and you know that's for the amount of good that you get out of that. It does a good job. I mean, that thing doesn't go anywhere. It pulls that thing right straight down through there, and there's no mess up. It just works real well. And there you go. And of course, when you get them oak logs in there, you're going to need to support that 1x4 table because it will not hold. Those 1x4s will not hold it. And I kept it lightweight because I'm moving it around, and it's fine for that, and it's easy to move. And I designed it to stay light. Of course, with the guides in there, I'm starting to get up to 2x4 capacity, but not too much. So this right here was a good idea. It gives me some room to expand if I needed to, if you get towards binding up. But generally, a little paste wax on it, throw it together, and away we go.